Hi everyone, my name's Chloe, aka Coca Beans Books here on YouTube, and in today's video we're going to talk about the 14 books that I read in the month of October and November. So get cozy, get comfy, grab a hot drink and let's dive into some books. Listen, I know it has been a hot minute, not even a minute, a hot couple of months since I posted anything on this channel. I know, I'm aware, I've been terrible at uploading anything since about April or May, but it's fine. That's all in the past. We're going to ignore it. Life just got busy, but the most important thing is I've still been reading. And I have 14 books here that you can't see because they're off camera, but they are here. Ta-da! To talk about with you. Well, there's not 14 here because 3 of them are audiobooks, but we're going to ignore that as well. Anywho, so let's start with the audiobooks. Now, before I get into it, I just want to preface this by saying we've got a little bit of a mixed bag these last few months. There were some surprising books, there were some books that I really enjoyed, and there were some that were horrifically bad that I ended up reading just because, honestly, I'm not sure why I kept reading them. I just did. I think just to torture myself a little bit. And what makes it even worse is that it was the first book in a series and I then went on and read book 2 of the series. But again, we'll get to that in a minute. Let's start with some audiobooks. And actually we started off October pretty strong. The first book that I listened to was This Inevitable Ruin by Matt Dinniman. Now this is book 7 in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. I'm Scottish, I can't say Carl, I'm sorry. We're all just gonna need to live with it, that's how we're saying it. So I can't say too much about the plot of this book, but I really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. My only complaint with this series is that the books, certainly in the latter half of the series, feel like they are very long, almost unnecessarily. And it feels like there's a lot already happening and it doesn't need the filler that it often has. I'm not sure if that's a fair assessment, or if I was maybe just a little bit burnt out by the time I got to this one, because I did read pretty much back to back every book in this series. Well, not back to back, but I would maybe have like only 1 or 2 other books in between. And so it was a lot to take in all at once, but I do feel like the last 2, maybe verging on 3 books that have been released so far were a little bit longer and could have benefited from being cut down a little bit, just because there's so much going on that a lot of the downtime in between the action almost just felt a bit repetitive. But I digress. It's a very good book, it's a very good series. I am loving the audiobook narration like 99% of people who recommend this series. I highly recommend you listen to it on audio because Jeff Hayes as a narrator is a master at his craft. A prime example of why audiobooks and their narration should be left to humans and not AI, but that's a whole different discussion that we're not getting into. Anyway, let's move on. Book 2 for the audiobooks was Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. Now I have a little bit of a bone to pick with this one for Mr. Grady Hendrix. There was far less witchcraft in this book than I thought there was going to be, and I specifically left this book for October because I thought it was going to give me Halloween vibes, and it didn't. I still gave this 4 stars, I believe, but I think it probably would have been more accurate to say about a 3.75. I really wish Goodreads did decimals, but never mind. Also, if you can hear digging, the dog has decided to redecorate the bedroom and is currently moving his bed and whatever other furniture he can around because he's decided that the feng shui is not quite right. Anyway, I think probably more closer to about a 3.75 for me. So this book is set in the 1970s, and essentially it follows a group of girls who are all pregnant in their early to late teens, and they have been sent to a boarding house because their families are, of course, ashamed of the fact that they are all teen mothers who are pregnant out of wedlock. And they get sent to this boarding house to see out their pregnancy, have their baby. Their babies are then put up for adoption, and the mothers go back to their everyday life like nothing happens. And so it kind of follows the girls on their journey throughout their pregnancy and the emotions that come with being a teen mother in that time period, and also the shame and the guilt that they have around being in that situation, but also then having to give up their child as well. It's quite an interesting discussion, and it actually made me think of a book that I read when I was probably far too young to actually read a book like that, called Roxy's Baby. I think it was by, I want to say the author's name was Catherine, and it was McPhail or McHale or something like that. But anyway, something very similar happened in there, where there was a young mother who went to a boarding house and she was supposed to have her pregnancy there, and then the baby was taken care of, something along the lines of that. But anyway, in Witchcraft for Wayward Girls, they are just going about their lives in this boarding house, and one day a librarian comes to the house and gives our main character, Fern, which is not her real name, by the way, they're all given different names so that they can identify each other when they go back into the real world, if you like. But the librarian gives Fern a book of spells, or a book about witchcraft, and her friends try to unlock its witchy secrets. The witchcraft didn't really come into play until the latter half of the book, and it was very minimal at best. And I think I was expecting it to be a bit more supernatural, a bit like some of Grady Hendrix' other books, like The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, or even Horror Store, which was just, wow. Honestly, you just need to go read that book to understand what I mean. That was a bit of a mindfuck. But anyway, I think the more of these books that I read, the more I realise that actually the supernatural is kind of just taking a backseat to whatever the characters' turmoil is that they're going through. And so I think if you temper your expectations for witchiness in this book, then you will also really enjoy it, if you have enjoyed his other books too. So I would definitely still recommend it, but don't torture yourself and make yourself wait until October to read it, because it's not Halloween vibes at all. The third and final audiobook that I listened to then was Rewitched by, I don't know who. Please hold. Lucy Jane Wood. So Rewitched is following our main character, Belladonna Blackthorn, who is about to turn 30. And she is a witch who has led a rather unremarkable life thus far. She's working in a bookstore and uses her powers primarily just for mundane day-to-day tasks, like cleaning the shop and putting books away and things of that nature. So in this world, everyone is given access to their power at 15. And when they turn 30, so after they've had their powers for 15 years, they then have to go up against, well, not up against, but they have to present themselves to the Witchy Council, and they decide whether or not they have made worthy contributions to Witch Society with their powers. And if they have, they can keep them. If they have not, then they are stripped of their powers. And Belladonna goes to the council, and they decide that she hasn't actually used her powers to the fullest potential, and decide through a loophole to give her 30 days to prove them wrong and to prove that she can actually contribute something useful to Witchy Society. Of course, there's a little bit of a romance there. it's very typical of a cozy fantasy book. There's not a huge amount of plot, and actually the trials that Belladonna has to go through in order to get her powers back, or keep her powers even, were just a bit rushed and a bit convenient. I gave it 3 stars in the end, and again, I think if you temper your expectations and you go into this book knowing that it is just a light-hearted, fun, cozy fantasy, then it is a good read. Take it for what it is, because it does exactly what it says on the tin. It is a good one to read in the fall if you just want something light and not too difficult, not too challenging. It's just good. It's just good. That was a great booktube review, wasn't it? Can you really just tell the caliber of book reviews that you get on this channel? Unparalleled, some would say. Anyway, moving on to the physical books that I read, and these are in no particular order, other than what I pulled them off of my shelf. But I have here, first up, Sally Rooney's Beautiful World, Where Are You? And I marked this as 3 stars on Goodreads, but it was probably more 2.5 for me. I tend to round up rather than round down. This was okay. There wasn't really much happening, and I can't really tell you much of the plot other than it's about 4 people who are sort of friends, sort of acquaintances, depending on who you're talking about. And it's really just about them going about their life. They send a lot of emails back and forth to each other. There's a lot of monologues in here, a lot of soliloquies, it feels like. But not a lot actually happens. And I think that's kind of the point of Sally Rooney's books, is she just chronicles, forgive me, normal people. And I've kind of come to realize, I mean, this was the first and only Sally Rooney book that I've ever read, but judging from reviews I've heard of the other books and my own thoughts of this one, I think that is just what her story writing is. I don't think they have much plot, and I think it's more supposed to be thought-provoking and makes you question life in general. And to be honest, that is just not my cup of tea. I found it quite boring. I found it quite monotonous. It really wasn't for me, but I can appreciate the fact that it is a well-written piece of literature. And if you do like these types of books or that type of storytelling or narrative, then you will probably enjoy this one. It just wasn't for me. We then have a rather surprising one for me. I didn't think that I would like this book as much as I did. And before I tell you anything about it, I want to preface this by saying over the last couple of months, I've been on a bit of a mission to try and read as many of my romance books as I possibly can, because at the end of the year, I'm probably going to unhaul a lot of them. Could you... Of all the toys you have, why have you decided that you're going to try and eat a scrunchie? Really? Good grief. Anyway, I'm on a bit of a mission to try and get through as many of the romances as I can so that I can unhaul a lot of them by the end of the year. And so you'll see a theme now going forward. Most of the books that I've read over October and November were romance. And this is one that I put off for quite a long time because I really didn't think that I would like it. And I have to say, it wasn't particularly well written, but it was just a bit of a fun time. It's Fallen Hard for the Royal Guard by Megan Clausen. And essentially it follows Maggie, who lives in the Tower of London with her dad, and she falls for one of the Royal Guardsmen, Freddie. It's a little bit insta-lovey. The chemistry is questionable, especially on Freddie's part. I understand that he's a royal guardsman, but he has the emotional range of a teaspoon. There's not much going on behind the eyes, I don't think. And it just... Maggie was a bit hopeless, but she was supposed to be. She was supposed to be that clumsy, unlucky in love, romantic heroine that everybody has seen a million times. And I do think that the book is probably about 100 to maybe 50 pages longer than it actually needed to be. And I appreciate that I've said that I enjoyed it, and all I've said so far is negative things about it. But it was, again, just a fun, mindless, uncomplicated read that, once again, if you're a fan of this genre, I actually think I would recommend that you pick this one up. I thought Freddie was an interesting choice for the love interest because, like I said, he was very wooden and just... he just didn't really do much. I thought there was far more compelling side characters, like some of the other soldiers in his regiment, but that's just me. You know, Maggie, you do you. If that's who you want to go with, then fine. There were some fun scenes as well. So Maggie sets up a Tinder page and she goes on a couple of quite disastrous dates, and some of that was funny, and I think the humour in the book was pretty good as well. But yeah, like I said, overall it wasn't the most well-written book in the world, but a good time nonetheless. A hard pivot from the romance, but the next one I read was The Boy in the The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas by John Boyne. Now, I really liked this book when I read it. I gave it 4 stars, and then I went on to Goodreads and I saw that it had quite a lot of criticism. And I can see both sides of the argument. A lot of the criticism surrounding this book is, first of all, how juvenile and naive the narrator is, who, by the way, he's like a 10-year-old boy. But secondly, that it's incredibly unrealistic. So our main character, Bruno, is a young German boy in the 1940s Germany. And his father is a very high-ranking German soldier for the ruling political party at the time, which I obviously can't say on YouTube for obvious reasons. And his father gets sent to the main concentration camp in Poland to oversee, well, what they were doing there. Bruno is very naive to what the camp is. He sees people on the other side of the fence and he acknowledges that they all seem to be wearing the same things and all look very sad and sickly, but doesn't really understand why, and he can't understand why he's not allowed to go over the fence and play with the other children. And a lot of the commentary and the reviews were that it's just not realistic to think that a 10-year-old boy who is so close to the heart of German operations wouldn't actually understand what was going on. But my counter argument to that is that actually this boy has led a very sheltered and very privileged life until this point, and a lot of people in surrounding areas and indeed around the world didn't actually realise the magnitude of, or even the scope of, what was going on in these camps at the time. People closer to it may have suspected, but I don't think anybody until quite some time later actually realised the true horrors that were going on. And so I don't think it's too far of a stretch to believe that a 10-year-old child wouldn't be able to comprehend that. A couple other points that I saw made that were quite valid, but also I think you do have to suspend a little bit of belief when it comes to a fable, and that's exactly what the author says at the start of this book. This is not a factual recounting of the events, it's a fable, it's a story. certain liberties were taken for the purpose of storytelling. But some of the criticisms were the fact that the two boys, so obviously Bruno becomes friends with a boy who is in the camp, and they spend a lot of time talking to each other through the fence. One of the criticisms is that they would never have been able to get so close to the fence to speak, because first of all, it was electrified. It had guard stations posted all around it that were manned 24/7. It just wouldn't have happened. And again, you're right, it probably wouldn't be, but certain liberties had to be taken for the purpose of storytelling. And it's not a factual recounting by any means, but I think it does give a very interesting perspective, because we very rarely see anything written from the German point of view, however young and juvenile you might think it is. I thought overall the messaging behind the book and what happened, obviously I'm not going to tell you what happened in the end, it was very poignant, very hard hitting, and I enjoyed how it was executed. Moving on to a slightly more light-hearted read, well, not slightly more, we're doing a complete 180 and we are totally pivoting. The next book I have here is Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert. Now, this book sent me into an existential crisis. It made me question everything, and it is the book that finally made me realise I am too old for YA. That's heartbreaking. It really is something, but this was almost a DNF for me. It was extremely childish. The main character was a pain in the arse that honestly I just wanted to shake and tell her to get a fucking grip of herself. She was extremely childish, stubborn to the point of just it not making sense. But then I had to stop and tell myself, these are high school children, and most of us were probably exactly the same in high school, and this is actually probably a very accurate representation of how a high school person would react in this situation, I think. I don't remember being that irritating when I was 15, but you know, I digress. So basically this book follows Celine and Bradley, and they were friends. They had a big falling out over, I'm not even entirely sure what, something stupid and utterly ridiculous. Celine decided that her and Bradley were mortal enemies, thus hence. And then they go to, it's almost kind of, for anybody in the UK, it's kind of like a Duke of Edinburgh award thing, which is essentially a program that you can do when you are in high school, where you do a lot of extracurricular activities like camping and hiking and helping the elderly cross the street, those sorts of things. And it's supposed to look really good on your CV, and it's something that you can put forward to universities to show that you are a well-rounded, well-balanced individual. So they go on a program like that where they have to go to a summer camp, and they do different orienteering challenges and whatnot to work on their team building skills, etc, etc. And of course they're put on the same team and they're made to work together, with the long-term view of getting a scholarship from that. I gave this 2 stars, I believe. Like I said, it was just childish. I found Celine really irritating. The progression of the romance in it just wasn't for me as well. And I did actually pick this up thinking it would be the same as Talia Hibbert's adult romance books, like her Brown Sisters trilogy. I didn't realise that this was YA at the time. And I know what you're thinking, I probably should have guessed given the cover. But in my defence, a lot of adult romance nowadays has these like cartoonish covers. It's hard to tell, okay? I mean, look at Falling Hard for the Royal Guard. That's a cartoon cover. Like, you're not telling me that these two things aren't the same. So, I feel like, you know, I should be forgiven. I didn't like it. I'm officially too old for YA. That's, my own mortality is something that I'm just going to need to have to deal with now. I've not actually quite dug myself out of that existential trench, but there we are. Moving on to another pretty surprising read for me, actually. I didn't think I was going to like this, but I did. And that is Flawless by Elsie Silver. And this is her, is it Chestnut Springs? Is that this one? I think it might be Chestnut Springs series. Huge on TikTok. Basically each book follows one of 4 brothers, I think, or 3 brothers and their best friend. This one is about the youngest, Rhett, who is a professional bull rider, and he's a bit of a bad boy of the bull riding community, which who knew that was a thing. And he's got himself into some hot water with his sponsors after a interview that he does right at the start of the book. And his management, or his manager, sends his daughter, who works with the firm, basically to babysit him. And so she, her name is Summer, has a little bit of a grumpy sunshine, which Summer and she's the sunshine. I digress. There's lots of enemies to lovers, lots of one bed troping, forbidden romance because it's the boss's daughter. You know, you get the gist. This was a good time. I actually really enjoyed this. Again, my thing with romances is I always feel like they're probably a little bit longer than what they actually need to be, but this one didn't ever feel boring at any time. I can see why it's so hyped on TikTok. I do have the next one in the series, Heartless, I think, but I'll read that only because I own it, but I'm probably not going to continue on with the series, not because I'm not enjoying it per se, or it's particularly badly written, just because it's not my cup of tea. But yeah, I can definitely see why a lot of people on TikTok hype this one up. It is pretty good. It's a bit cheesy in places, but then you expect that from a romance, don't you? It's kind of part and parcel of it. One that I did not enjoy, however, The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. Catalina, who's the main character in this book, is possibly one of the most irritating main characters I have ever read. This book is over 450 pages. It could have been at least half that. There was no need for it. Like, it's just not that deep. It is not deep enough to justify all of these pages. It didn't need to happen. This is another enemies to lovers fake dating trope. So Catalina and her workplace rival, whose name I can't remember, I have no idea and I can't find it. Catalina and whatever this guy is called are workplace rivals. Basically, he was rude to her on one of their first days at work, and she then decided that they were mortal enemies and he absolutely despised and hated her, and the whole time he was just completely unaware of this and had no idea why she was being so weird and standoffish with them. But Catalina is having to go to Spain, so they live in America somewhere, probably New York. They're having to go to Spain for her sister's wedding, and she doesn't want to go alone because that's a social faux pas. Apparently you can't go to a wedding by yourself because it's utterly sad and pathetic, apparently. And she somehow accidentally, Aaron, that's what his name is, somehow accidentally tells her mum that Aaron is her boyfriend, and so has to take him to the wedding. And because they're fake dating, there's obviously one bed trope in there. They have to share a room, and over the course of the trip they decide that they actually really fancy each other. But then they get together and they get back to New York, and someone makes a really like misogynistic comment about the fact that, oh, you're sleeping with the boss, because he's now her boss. He got a promotion at some point. You're sleeping with the boss, you can't. And she went into a tizzy about, oh no, we can't be together because people will think I'm just sleeping with you to get ahead and get a promotion. What? And it was just like a whole thing it didn't need to be. It was honestly ridiculous. I gave it 2 stars. Don't read it, it's crap. Okay, we are 1, 2, 3, 4 books away from being done. The next book I have is How to Kill Your Family by Bella Mackie. So this I thought was quite an interesting one. I believe I ended up giving it 3 stars because I didn't particularly like the ending, or maybe it was 3.5 stars. I can't remember. It'll be on the screen somewhere. I thought it was very interestingly done. So essentially we are following our main character Grace, who right at the start of the novel it tells us is currently in jail for a murder she did not commit. However, she is writing about the murders that she did commit in her little prison diary, which I mean, I've never been in jail before for, you know, murdering someone, but I can't help but feel like that's probably not really something that you want to do. Just a thought, you know, maybe don't admit to the murders that you've committed. You know, it's what it is. But it's all told through her perspective, where she's recounting the family members of hers that she murdered, why she murdered them, how she murdered them, and all of the things that she done to make it look like an accident. It was quite clever. It was quite fun how it played out. I didn't particularly like the ending. There was a little bit of a twist there that I didn't care for. But overall, I think it was a very enjoyable read. I've seen quite a lot of criticism for this book on Goodreads, but I mean, I personally really enjoyed it and I would recommend it. I thought it was quite a fun read. Yes, it was a little bit long, and yes, there was a lot of filler in between killing off the family members, but it was never boring at any stage, and I got through it in a couple of days. So again, I enjoyed it. A solid 3-star read. Would recommend it if you've not read it already. Oh, hello. Would you like to see? Excuse you. Can I help you? What do you want? Do you want to come up and have a cuddle? Is that what you're after? Would you like to say hi to the YouTube people? Would you like to say hello? No, you're just gonna lick me. Perfect. That's just what I wanted. That's just what I wanted. Have you been outside playing? Did you bring your bone back in? Because I'm not going out in the rain to get it. Oh! Well, that'll be me told. Mwah. You good boy. Yes. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Nearly there. Next up, we have The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. Now, again, this is one that I've owned for quite a while, and I've put off reading it because I didn't think I would enjoy it, and then I read it and actually really enjoyed it. So I thought that this, with it being The Thursday Murder Club and it being a bit of a whodunit, would be the perfect one to read in October, and it was. I'm so happy I did. So this follows 4 people who live in a retirement community, and they are members of the Thursday Murder Club, where they try and solve old cold cases. However, they then are brought right into the thick of it when someone is murdered at the retirement community. And so they try and find out who done it. Honestly, this was just so fun. I saw, again, a lot of criticism for this one about it being so unrealistic and just not believable. Guys, it's a book, a fictional book. We kind of need to suspend belief a little bit. No, I don't think that 4 pensioners in their 80s and 90s are going to be running about breaking into police stations to find evidence and statements, and of course it's unbelievable, but it's also just fun. I think it was really well written, and I actually can't wait to continue on with the series, but I don't own any of the physical books. I did, however, notice that my library has them all, but they're all out on loan just now and have quite long reserve lists. So I'm hoping that I get to it pretty soon, but equally I don't think I will. They are, however, still on my radar. Highly recommend this book if you haven't read it already and you are a fan of that sort of crime, whodunit, mystery sort of book. I also, in my real life day job, work with a lot of elderly people, and a lot of just the narration style and the little idiosyncrasies and things that they do and how they go about their day is also just so reminiscent and so true to how a lot of the people that I work with live life. And I think that was part of what made it so enjoyable for me, is because actually when it came down to the people themselves, I think it was quite an accurate representation of that community. But yeah, I think this was a really fun one. Okay. I don't want to end on a bad note, but I'm going to end on a bad note. Because I read books 1 and 2 of the Shatter Me series. And I wish I hadn't. So obviously we have Shatter Me and Unravel Me. This was released back in 2011, back in the height of the YA dystopian era, and it is very reminiscent of those types of books. It is certainly a book of its time. It reads like a YA dystopian novel. So we have Juliet, who's our main character, and in this world it's sort of set in the future where Earth's resources have been completely depleted. Global warming has wrecked the planet, the animals are dead, the plants are dead, there's food shortages, you know, it's just, the whole place is in ruin. And the re-establishment has taken over as the new worldwide government. And rather than different countries having their own governmental systems, the re-establishment just takes over the world. And they regulate everything, how people spend their time, what jobs they do, what rations they get, etc, etc. It's very much a dictatorship, as most of these dystopian stories are. But in this world there are certain individuals who have additional abilities. For example, there are people who have the ability of telekinesis, people who can make themselves invisible, who can heal you, that sort of thing. But our main character, Juliet, her superpower is that she can kill anyone if they touch her skin. Because why not? So because of that, she was locked up in an asylum for a long time. She was in prison for a very long time. And she is then released by the son of one of the most powerful men in the re-establishment as his little project almost. He kind of wants to recruit her for his army or whatever experimental purposes he wants her for, Warner. And he assigns a guard to basically just make sure that she's doing what she's supposed to, Adam. And it turns out that Adam and her were actually childhood friends of a sort. They went to school together, and thus our love triangle is introduced between Juliet, Adam and Warner. Because despite the fact that Warner has killed multiple people in cold blood, tortured people, including Juliet, and she only met him, oh, I don't know, 30 seconds ago, he's now decided that Juliet is the love of his life. And he's completely infatuated with her. He wants to be with her. It's the only thing that he can possibly conceive himself doing with his life is being with Juliet. And of course, Juliet kind of wants him, but she knows she shouldn't because he's such an awful monster who's killed all of these people. And what does that make her? If she wants him, does that make her a monster too? Juliet is insufferable. Warner needs psychiatric help, and Adam is... well, I think I've had more interesting conversations with walls than the sort of conversation that Adam would be capable of producing. It's not particularly well written. The writing style is overly flowery. There's lots of metaphors and similes, and it just feels a bit needless, as if she's trying to be very poetic, but it just comes across as annoying, to be honest. It kind of feels like that one person who just learned a really big word and they want to use it all the time so that you know how smart they are and how much better than you they are. That's kind of how the writing style comes across. Again, the love triangle is extremely insta-love on both sides. Even though Adam and Juliet knew each other from childhood, they actually, it turns out, only had like one conversation, if that, the whole time that they were in school because of Juliet's curse. She was bullied and no one spoke to her and she was shunned by her peers. You get the gist, you know, the chronically absolutely stunning, sexy, misunderstood female main character who has all the power. It's just, yeah. Honestly, I don't know why I continued reading it. I did. And I think by some sort of perverted curiosity, I'll continue the series just to see what happens. Because I've heard a lot of people say that it gets better. But again, this is one that I think perhaps if I had read it in my Twilight, Hunger Games, The Selection era, I would have lapped it up as an almost 30-year-old. However, not quite. So the first book I gave 2 stars. The second book I gave 2.5 stars because there were some more interesting elements in this second book. It introduced a few more characters. It introduced a little bit of rebellion to this establishment that I thought gave it a slightly more interesting depth. But again, it's not exactly prize-winning literature, shall we say. Take it very much for what it is. It's a 2011 YA dystopian. Alright guys, that is it for this video. Before I go though, I just want to quickly say thank you so much for all of the love that I got on my Red Rising Lost the Plot video. I'm so glad that you liked it all as much as you did. It took me a really long time to make that video. I think it was about a month in the making. And a lot of people have asked me to do the rest of the series, which I very much intend on doing. I just haven't had time yet, but I've started the next video. It's being made. I'm hoping to get it out either at the end of the month or start of next month. I do have a few other videos planned as well that I want to make for December, but I promise it is coming. If you've made it this far in the video, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel if you want to see more bookish content from me, and let me know down in the comments below what books you've been reading over the last couple of months. Have you got any new favourites, and if so, tell me what they are. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.